Are we all familiar with Hugh Jardins?
I think no. Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the First4LCFC Podcast. And just like in other weeks, I'm afraid this is unlikely to be a particularly happy episode, as we're also reeling from a dramatic and potentially pivotal loss to basement dwellers Bournemouth in what must have been one of the most shocking and jarring results for Leicester City in recent years. And we'll just get straight into it. And of course, I'm joined by all three of the previous guests. So we have Edbert Noon, Christian Mosen, and our friend from the States, Austin Forbes. How are you all feeling, gents? Have you got over it yet and calmed down? Or like me, are you still furious?
Well, to be fair, I've got a nickname for you, Jody. And
This
I feel
man's
like
got my back.
we should introduce you now as the number one Jody Morris lookalike.
And that's not a girl's name. Yeah. Unisex. Jody Morris.
Yes. My frankly disturbing likeness to Jody Morris has been noted. Available for hire for all good lookalike gigs. But right now, come on, let's talking about the game then. So we might as well just get it over and done with. It's very painful, but we've got to talk about it. So first half, Leicester 1-0 up, absolutely cruising. I think we were having something like 60% possession. We had 10 shots to their 1, well in control. And then RODGERS took off Iheanacho, who wasn't having his best game, but wasn't having his worst game by any measure. And then all went to hell. So, I mean, Chris, why in the first instance has he changed things at half time?
You've probably asked the wrong person, but
Do you want me to come in?
No, steady on, Edbert. I'll offer my views. Jamie's chosen me, the chosen.
You are the chosen one.
But in reflection, I wasn't actually at home when the game was on, but I did see the update at halftime, looked at the stats, absolute one-way traffic. So I was like, yeah, buzzing. It's going to be 9-0 again. And then, checked it. It was 3-1. Then whilst I was still loading the page, it went 4-1. I can't comment on a tactical thing, but I mean, that's a capitulation. It's embarrassing. And I think at the end of the last podcast, I think Austin joked saying it'll be 3-0 to Bournemouth. I think he put it kindly. So, I can't comment on a tactical thing. So maybe Edbert can answer this time.
Well, yeah, Chris was out for a walk with a lady friend, so couldn't watch the football. Priorities, etc. He texted me at half time, and I just said like Bournemouth are bad, like they are bad, and I put on Twitter as well because I was doing the commentary. I said it's going to stay a bit nervy whilst it's 1, but we are dominating, and if we get a second, like this game is over, bloodbath, etc. And why? I just don't get it. He says afterwards it's because he wanted another man in the middle to like shore it up a bit, and I'm like, why? Like it was I'm the last 6 months or so, as any regular listener would know, I have grown fond of Iheanacho, and he's not going to be as good as Vardy with his finishing and his pace, whatever, but he does a different job, and he helped create the first goal, played an important part in it, and that system is dominating. And not everyone, even when you are dominating, not everyone in the system is going to get like an 8 or 9 out of 10. It's not an issue if 1 or 2 get a 6 or a 7, like average performance. It's the team that was working, and it wasn't even close. Yeah, we were only 1-0 up, but we were on top. And I feel if that team was left out there for another 20, 30 minutes, then you probably would have been disappointed if we only, went home winning by like 2. And obviously it sort of went tits up and that's nothing against Pratt really. Like when he's been called on this season, he's done a solid enough job, but it's just like the whole change in the system. It's a classic don't change a winning formula, isn't it?
I mean, RODGERS' post-match comments for me are a bit bizarre actually, because like we said, Iheanacho, he wasn't amazing, but like you pointed out, he got an assist. He was getting involved with the play, linking it up quite nicely, and the shape was working. So RODGERS has come out and said Iheanacho wasn't having one of his better games. The issue for us defensively was on the side of the pitch. There was a lot of space for Wilf and Yuri to cover, and that's why he made the change. In the first half, they had one shot. So it's not like they were bloody rampant and getting through the whole time. And then in the second half, obviously, it was we just invited all of this pressure onto us. And that sort of decision, Austin, is really, really strange, I think. But, I mean, as a fan, do you see that and start to lose faith in the manager? Because it is inexplicable for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the worst decisions that he's made. Especially lately, he's made a lot of bad ones. But the worst thing for me was when he said, like, this will be a wake-up call. It's like, what about for the last 7 months that we played that we've been struggling? Like, we didn't have a wake-up call against Southampton, against Burnley, against Brighton, against Watford. There were no wake-up calls, and then it had to be Bournemouth. Like, it just blows my mind. And the fact that we're taking off Iheanacho when, like, I texted Chris, and I was like, this game kind of reminds me of the Huddersfield game last season where we just dominated. It was 5-0. Like, it was just not even close. And then I texted him back when everything happened. I'm like, what just happened? Because it was just like, it just doesn't make sense why you take off Iheanacho when, like, we looked really good, in my opinion, in the first half. We were quick. Ball was moving really well. Like, kind of the problem we were having against Brighton was that there were too many passengers. The ball was just moving side to side. Like, I don't remember any balls really moving side to side. Almost everything was forward, and it was just looking so good. And then he takes off Iheanacho, puts on Pratt, and everything just goes tits up.
Yeah, and it did so rather dramatically, didn't it? It started obviously with Schmeichel deciding to just kick the ball directly into Ndidi's arse from a goal kick, from a static goal kick.
That's what I mean. Well. We've got to comment on this before you go on to the other goals. Like, his distribution, how, like, with all the coaches at the club, at any Premier League club or any professional club, why is he still under instruction, or is he just not agreeing to the instructions of playing these, like, lewd balls? Like, the thing is, it's from a static goal kick, like you say. There's literally no excuse for that. Like, I could literally get the ball higher than that, and I'm not a professional. So what I don't get, like, why is this an element of his game that hasn't been worked on for so long?
I mean, it did seem like he was trying something like fancy, almost like trying to drill it low or picks up, but that was probably the third or fourth time in the game that he'd given it away with his bizarre kicking choices. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not like this is the first time we're commenting on his distribution. We joked about it last week that he's probably, him and Mark Albright have the most like the worst pass success rate in the Premier League. You rarely find a ball from him that reaches its target. It's either going way out of play or barely clearing, like, the third of the pitch.
And it just put them under pressure again and again and again. But to capitulate, the fact that the first goal went in, to then concede so soon after is worrying for it's almost like a mental thing, I felt.
Yeah, I do. I think it all was a bit mental, like, well, mental both, figuratively and literally. Like, we've got to look at this in sort of layers, really, like, because each stick, like, obviously we've just given RODGERS pelters, and that was a stupid decision to take Iheanacho off. But even then, it was individual errors. In the first goal, yeah, what was Casper doing? That was mental. Ndidi, you probably can't give him too much of a hard time for giving the pen away, because he was literally one-on-one. And then straight after, it was like that shook people with that stupid error. And then again, second goal, Casper should have saved it, sure. But you could just see, like, Soyuncu's a bit of a hothead at the best of times, and he was just pissed off, wasn't he? He got pushed into the back of the net, and he's like, you could just imagine, like, Chris would do this at 5-a-side, by the way, the angry little man. He pushed around, just conceded 2 goals. Think, I know, the ref's looking, there's loads of cameras around, but I'll kick this guy and no one will
that
notice.
little as well, I can fit in a 5-a-side goal and kick someone.
Yeah, so after that, it was just like, what's going on? And then the other goal, like when we made Solanke just like look like Messi running through us with all of this skill, and it's like he's not a good player.
I watched that goal. I found most humour in that. Like, it's his swagger as well. He scored 1 goal, but he's just sort of I don't know. It's audacious what he's doing there. But again, he's made it look all too easy. It's like it was like
Nonchalant is the correct word. Yeah.
He was making it look, our defenders were static.
That 4th goal actually worried me more than the first and the second one, because it started from our own throw-in, and it was a complete mix-up between 2 of your most experienced, probably the most influential players in the dressing room, you'd guess, in Fuchs and Evans. You know, the guys that you want to be looking to at this point to really be dragging you out of a mess. And they've just completely capitulated. And then not only that, he's then run through up against our club captain and nutmegged him. This is a player that has only just scored his first goal in 38 games and is widely regarded as being a bit of a joke. And he absolutely embarrassed us. I can feel the rage coming out of me again. I thought I'd suppressed it, but it was embarrassing. And then you look at the players' body language, and you think we've now probably got to win 3 games out of 3. And could you say, looking at the players' reactions, we've got a chance of doing that?
Well, I think the next game is the mega one, really. Like, if we win, like, I'm still in my mind, especially now the Man City news has come through. Like, top 4's gone for me. Like, but I genuinely think there's a chance if we lose to Sheffield United that, you know, the heads are going to drop further, and that could be Europa League on as well. Like, we may not get any more points this season if something doesn't happen in training between now and the next game, because, you know, Man U are on cloud 9 at the minute. Spurs have just beat their biggest rivals. Yeah, whilst they've not been great, they've still got players who can do it on the day. And Sheffield United are back to winning ways and could do something that is quite literally historic for their club.
Let me just clarify what you're saying is, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but you'd need Man United, Wolves, Sheffield United and Tottenham to take maximum points from their remaining games for them to miss out on the Europa League.
Yeah.
So is Europa League qualification 7th?
Yeah, that's second round. So we'd literally start the season.
That is if Arsenal don't win the cup.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. There's permutations, but sure. It's concerning, and I don't. I think.
Sorry. Go on.
Sheffield United is probably one of the worst teams we could play against at any point of this season, just purely because of how well organised they are, and that's something we've struggled to break teams down. Like, I was speaking to Ed yesterday, watching the Wolves Everton game, and he said he was laughing that if Forest come up, they'll have their team's nowhere near prepared for the Premier League, but who could have told us that Sheffield United were prepared for the Premier League? And look at the organisation that Chris Wilder's got out of that team is incredible. And I think they really do a job on us.
We'll put it this way, if they beat us, they're 2 points behind us, and they're 7th. And then our next 2 games are Spurs and Man U. Like, you know, who would have thought a few months ago that we'd be talking like there's a chance we're going to finish 7th.
Well, exactly.
Like 15 points off 4th or something nutty like that.
Sheffield United and Spurs, probably 2 of the toughest. Under Mourinho, Spurs are so tight and so negative. Like, it's just difficult to see how we're suddenly going to find some real good form ending this season.
You say you would be shocked if these teams overtook us, but, you know, Spurs have to play us, so let's assume they beat us just for example's sake. Their last 2 games, other than us, are Newcastle and Palace. they're both very winnable. So they could win all three. Sheffield United's other two, other than us, are Everton at home and Southampton. Very winnable. You know, Wolves have been on form. Their games against Palace and Burnley, they're winnable. So, you know, it's all in our hands. You know, if we win every game, we're still going to be in the Champions League. But there's no ifs and buts now. It's like we got to win the next one, because if we don't win against Sheffield United and other results go the wrong way, we're in a dogfight. For like, we may have to go to like away to some Slovakian team in a few weeks' time to qualify for the Europa League.
I think the biggest concern will be the fact that the pre-seasons are already going to be limited, and I've got no idea how UEFA are planning to fit all the qualification in or whatever, but there'll be barely a break, and it's just going to be a nightmare.
So obviously we've got the worst case scenario being potentially that we may not get European football at all, and the permutations for that are going to be massive. But let's just say that we slip into the Europa League places and don't get the Champions League. Now, we put this poll out on Twitter earlier, and the results are pretty emphatic, but we asked the question that, given the strong position we were in, cruising towards Champions League with so many points ahead, how would you feel if we bottled the top four? Now, the options were no excuses, this is viewed as a failure. The other option were that we were overachieving, and this is probably where we should have ended up anyway. And finally, I'm happy with Europa League. Now, before I tell the results, how do you guys sit on there? What would your response be?
Well, something I've said all along, isn't it? I think on record before, like February, March time, was that it would be a failure, because I think you have to analyse the situation at that time. At that time, we were X amount of points clear, and to go on such a bad stretch of form like we have now is not acceptable. If we started a season like this, you'd be calling immediately for the manager to be sacked. It's just, you've got to put things in perspective, that because we had such a strong start to the season, then you can easily flip the argument and say, but maybe we were overachieving. But if, like, the fact we've fallen off the cliff so much raises concerns, and it is an outright failure for me. It's not good enough.
Wow, that's fairly emphatic. Ed, Austin, what do you guys think?
I'll let Austin go first.
Well, definitely, given the situation, there's definitely it's definitely a failure to not make the Champions League. I mean, what are we, 15 points off, and missing out of the Champions League is just massive. I mean, it just really puts into perspective the player that Ricardo Pereira was. I mean, ever since he went down, it just really, really spiraled downhill. But I mean, it has kind of started since we lost to Liverpool on Boxing Day. I mean, I believe Villa was the last of our run, and then just everything went downhill from there. I will say this though, if you told me at the beginning of the season that we would get Europa League, I would have been happy. But if you're talking about given the current situation, there's definitely no excuses to not get Champions League.
Yeah, that's probably where I'd sit as well. But Ed, I think you've got a fairly arse-splintery way of doing this.
Well, can you just stop talking about my arse, please?
Never.
That was creepy. There is the starting point of this podcast. I think
I'm not having two arse-related openings.
Right. Moving on.
Ed, please give your answer.
Yeah, I am. Well, you say I'm sitting on the fence. I think I'm giving an intelligent response. I think genuinely the correct answer is all three. So at the start of the year, to validate this, we should probably go back. But I reckon I predicted we'd probably finish around 6th. And I do think over the course of the season, we probably are around the 5th best team in the league. So I do think we were overachieving at the start of the year, and would take Europa League football. However, notwithstanding, that doesn't mean that it's not a failure. Like, yeah, sure, on paper, looking back in the future, we may think, this is a big step to get in European football, but that's a big league to have thrown away, and it's just not. It's not acceptable, really. Like, even a couple of extra points here or there. Like, think about the Watford result. If we held on there, and elsewhere in the season where we've chucked silly goals away or whatever, we wouldn't be in this situation now. And it's just been going on for too long. And there are murmurings, albeit I think very early, that people are calling for a change of management, which seems mental. But I, for one, like Chris said, if this happened at the start of the season, people would be calling for his head. So I think, yeah, he's going to get the end of the year without a doubt. But if this run continues 10 games into next year, I wouldn't be surprised, because it's not a run of 4 or 5 bad defeats. It's a run of half a season, like 20 games where it's just been naff. So, yeah, I think it will be a disappointment. But, if the disappointing result is the Europa League place, it could be worse.
Which fair response noted a bit, but that's a fair response. But I, for one, would be very disappointed initially that we're not in the Champions League, but would be happy if we had some sort of European football. But my question is, if we do finish in the Europa, Chris, do you think that is going to be enough to hang on to the players that are likely to be tempted away by Champions League football, such as Maddison and maybe even Pereira?
Quite simply put, I don't think it is going to be enough. I think if a Champions League club comes in, then the doors open for them, because, like I said, I don't think we've really got enough of a reason to keep these players. What more can they do? Like, for me, if they've squandered this opportunity, that we have to question their mentality as a group of players. Is it a case that because their heads may already be turned, their levels have dropped? There's numerous things out there, and I think it's not so much also being able to hold on to players. I think players will often think, can we bring extra talent into this group to make me want to stay? And I don't think we can, really. I think in the Europa League, you can attract like a second or third tier sort of play. You're not getting the proper elite players who've been there, done that in the Champions League, or the up and coming prospects. I think you're sort of in that in between bit. And it's not even that. I think we need to hold on to players and build our squad. And if we start losing players, I can see us following a sort of similar pattern to what Burnley did when they qualified for the Europa League, and having such a stress on the squad that, if we do start next season like this, we could easily end up in a relegation battle.
I think, actually, I'm not too worried about most players, because I genuinely think since Christmas, some of our players have played themselves out of a move. I don't think people will want Maddison for 60, 70, 80 million. Like, maybe, when he was on fire early in the season, there was genuine doubts that someone will come in with a big money move, but I just don't see it, especially Man U, the team linked heavily with them. Like, now they've got Bruno, who's been mental. Like, why would they want him anyway? No one else is going to pay that money. I think my only concerns, really, I also thought Chilwell played himself out the move, but since the break and when he's come back, I think he's probably back in the frame. I said previously in previous podcasts, I'd be surprised if he's here. The only major one that I don't expect to go, but I think would be a big loss, is Pereira. And I don't know. I just think he's a great player, so I'm not going to begrudge him that if he goes. But other than that, which other players are going to be of, they've showed they've not got the ability to be consistent throughout a whole season. So why would you spend the sort of money with demand for them on it?
I think you do. Well, one person I'm also worried about is Ndidi. I mean, he's one of the most sought after holding midfielders in the world. And if you don't get Champions League football, I could be wrong, but I believe like PSG were looking at him. I mean, if PSG come calling, you're going. So, I don't think Pereira's going to leave just because he was injured. I mean, this might be the American me, but I just don't think really teams, especially torn ACL or whatever he tore. I don't think he's going to leave, but I think Madison and Chilwell will leave if we don't get Champions League.
Where would Madison
I
go?
certainly hope not.
I mean, I don't know. It does depend on who comes for him, but I think if a bigger, like, I'm kind of thinking of the fact of if a big team comes calling, would the player leave? And I'm thinking if that happens, then Madison's gone. Will a team come get him? I don't know, but
I think they'll be interested in him. But like the thing is, yeah, like has he played himself out of a move to the extent that we can't justify an £80 million price tag? I think there'll still be teams interested in him. I just don't think they'll be willing to pay the premium. But that could lead to is potentially an unsettled player from the start of next season. So there's plenty of repercussions, or negative repercussions at least. But maybe we're looking at this very negatively. But it's hard not to at the moment.
So, final further negative point, which Ed, you sort of touched on, and there has been rumblings of, is the discussion about Rodgers out, which is not a sentence I thought we'd be saying up until a few weeks ago. I mean, Chris, what do you make of that? Is that just hugely reactionary, or does it have credence?
Is Rodgers the great pretender? Is where I'm going to start with, because ultimately I think he's had a very easy ride as Leicester City manager, because I can't think of another manager in modern history or living history who's been allowed to go through such a patch. I don't actually remember a time we've had such a bad run. Do you know what I mean? And then we look at his managerial history. He's come from Scotland. And I don't think you have to be an elite manager to succeed there. Neil Lennon did it with next to no managerial experience, right? He ultimately failed at Liverpool, but yet when he came to Leicester, he came with, he's one of these fashionable young managers, but in reality, what's he built that reputation on? I think that as fans, we've been very patient with him, and even now, I don't think there's like a mass Rodgers out. Imagine if this was Puel, like, just use Puel as the most recent example. How impatient! And I purely think that was for mixed reasons. That maybe he wasn't as likable as Rodgers. Maybe his lack of, well, being French, or his lack of English speaking, maybe his lack of charisma. But then again, Rodgers doesn't exactly bleed like optimism, and like I don't see him as like an ultimately likable character. Do you know what I mean? Like I actually don't know what he's built this reputation on. So I think we've been perfectly patient with him. I don't think he should go yet, but we've said it for weeks now. He hasn't got a plan B, and that's for me poor management.
And I mean, Ed, it's not like, do you still maintain the same level of confidence in his decisions? Because yesterday's sub was not the first time he's made a baffling substitution, and he does seem to have a bit of a thing about playing players out of position. I mean, Perez is obviously better in the number 10 role, yet we've only seen him there in recent games because of injuries, and he's had to be played there. And then you look at the likes of Maddison on the left, putting it Mendy and Ndidi together as a central midfield partnership. Do you still have confidence that Rodgers is the right guy to get us into that top 4, top 6?
I do, but at the moment, I'm giving some benefit of the doubt down to injuries. This is primarily based on the fact, I think we've said this before, but when we have our first 11 100% fit and on form, we, other than Man City and Liverpool, we are as good, if not better, than just about everyone in the league. However, as soon as you take even just one player out of that core 11, the team, regresses massively. Be that, for example, Ndidi earlier in the year, everything fell to pot. And right now, obviously there's all COVID and all the issues with loads of fixtures, lack of fitness, low morale, etc. But we do have two of our key attacking players and defensive players in Pereira and Chilwell out, as well as Maddison, who is meant to be the key creator. So I am giving a little bit of scope for, the fact we're missing a lot of them. But,
Well, just one thing. Like, we were warned actually by Celtic fans that he had a bit of a history of rushing players back from injury, in particular Tierney, and I think he was guilty of doing so with Benkovic. And we've seen him do that this season with Ndidi, and Vardy, and now with Maddison coming on for that 45 minutes when he clearly wasn't fit, and we paid the price by being out for extra games. I mean, we are struggling with injuries, but does he have to take his portion of the blame as well?
I think obviously, at the end of the day, he makes the decisions. Like, he can't do, when players do stupid stuff like Kasper Soyuncu, even Fuchs' mistake, let's be honest, he's not the core person to blame. No. But when he can control things, especially in terms of subs and shape, that's nearly entirely his decision. So he has to be held to account for that. I also think that a big issue is, and we've said for ages that there's an issue with depth. When we were in the position we were in the January window, all we did was bring in Wolves' fourth choice centre-back on loan. If Liverpool or Man City did that in January, you'd think, what is going on?
I've just thought something though, like how dissimilar is this stretch of form to what got Ranieri the sack, and he won us the Premier League?
Without research, I don't know.
It's pretty similar.
Including his infamous transfers of the window where we probably had more power than ever before in the transfer market, where you go and bag Luis Hernandez.
What a signing he turned out to be. But you're right. I mean, yesterday, just to mention it as well, I mean, Bennett's performance wasn't exactly awe-inspiring, was it?
Yeah, but this is another thing. This is the fickle nature of football fans. But I am adamant it's just Leicester City fans. People were raving about him when he came on against Brighton, wasn't it? Like, why is he suddenly the worst player on earth?
True.
I thought I was impartial throughout.
Well, people were raving about James Justin as well, having seen him play like 200 minutes in some random matches here and there, and he
played one game at He played one game at left back, and then suddenly he's Chilwell's long-term replacement. Like, and we can
which he may be. He may be, but when you're taking out these key players, but I don't know. I can forgive it for that now, but it's just been so long. I've got the form table up now, just to see how long this rubbish form's been. And in the last 20 matches, over half the season, we're 13th in the league, level on points with Newcastle. If that's where we were after 20 games this season, we'd have an issue. And he probably, I don't know, would he have been sacked? I don't know. I think he probably would have got a little bit longer, but, we'd be very angry, I feel, with the squad we've got. If we got 24 points from 20 games, 6 wins out of 20. Remember when we used to win 6 games out of 6? Do you remember when you used to win games? Yeah, they were good. I think you get 3 points for a win, don't you?
I miss those days. So basically, the long and short of it is that it simply was not good enough yesterday. We've got serious concerns long term, and everything's terrible. Is there anything positive that we can think of? I mean, a question that I posed to you, Chris, trying to inject some sort of positivity back into it was, say if we do qualify for the Europa League and we make a couple of really good signings, like maybe a creative winger, another centre back, or for example, would we have the squad to potentially compete for the Europa League? Could it actually end up being something of a blessing?
I'll answer how I answered in the group chat to you. I don't see where you can create an argument of strong enough foundations for that. We haven't won a cup competition in 20 years now. Yes, we did win the Premier League, but it's total, it's knockout football ultimately once the group stage is over. I don't see there being a valid argument for that. I think the benefit of the Champions League is that you typically have that extra day potentially of rest as well. There's some dubious ties and probably longer journeys to potentially making the Europa League. I think it all hinges on ifs and buts. But if you look at the quality of the teams left in Europa League this year, there's teams that are used to plying the trade in the Champions League. I think there's an element of teams maybe taking the competition more seriously. But yes, if we could get someone who can deliver consistent service to Jamie Vardy, then I can see it being an optimistic shout, because we've seen yesterday Vardy needs half a sniff and he'll be in the box. It's just, we don't want it to be Iheanacho delivering the balls. We need it to be a winger or a wide man whose job is primarily to put chances on a plate. Because I think there's a stat about James Maddison that even when he was still playing, I don't think he's recorded a goal or an assist in like 530 minutes or something. So he's as good as injured when he's on the pitch.
So is that a no?
I don't think we're going into Europa League thinking we're gonna win it. I don't think the bookies will have us as one of the favourites.
I've just googled Maddison.
Okay.
Side note, I will go back to the Europa League in a minute. Guess how many assists he's got this season, according to WhoScored.com?
I don't know, 3.
3, yeah.
Exactly. He's a fraud.
Nah, he's not a fraud. He does more than assist, but yeah, I think, regarding the actual question, I think, it goes back to what I was saying a minute ago about depth. Like, there is no way that we can compete in 4 competitions next season. I think even if we get rid of some dead wood and we sign like 4 or 5 players, of which maybe 1, maybe 2 go into starting 11, the rest is all good depth. We can't do it in 4. So if we want to have a real shot at that, I think we need to pie off at least 2 competitions. And I feel like we probably got to accept we won't qualify for Europe in the Prem either. Like, a lot of the time when teams who aren't as big as the mega clubs get into Europe, the season when they're in Europe, they just fall away because it's too much. And at the minute with our squad, I can't help but feel it would be too much. But
well, to a certain extent, but to a lesser degree, Wolves started this season how we're currently ending it, but their run of bad form wasn't that prolonged, was it? Because everyone was saying, "Oh, can they handle the stress of Europa League?" And they're still in that competition, and it maybe goes to show how what a good manager can do to turn around the fortunes of a team, and that's why Nuno's got Wolves he's got Wolves where they are now, because he turned around their misfortunes. Or even someone like Chris Wilder, Sheffield United came out of lockdown looking really jagged, but again, a good manager potentially has got them on song again. Whereas we're in this rut and there's no way out, it seems.
Which is a nice, encouraging point to take us through into the preview of the Sheffield United game. We are in a rut and there is no way out. And of course, we're not really helped by the fact that Soyuncu managed to end his season really by booting the Bournemouth player up the arse. So
Stop
first of all,
talking
Austin.
about horses.
So first of all, Austin, by the way, that is the soundbite start. I mean, how do you line up at the back then? Because obviously Leicester have played the back three, but I don't know if we will actually have the numbers to do so anymore. How do you line up, assuming that I think Maddison is due to come back? I'm not sure on Chilwell. I think it'll come too soon for him.
I think what Rodgers does is look at the players available and pick the one who's least suitable and put him in that position. So I'm expecting
Chowdhury.
Jamie Vardy in that position, actually.
Mendy
Chowdhury at left back.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if y'all know, but Chowdhury actually played fullback in one of the warm-up matches.
So he could well be the man. But would you rather have Chowdhury at right back, or would you be bringing Wes Morgan in?
I mean, I think we're gonna go four back with Justin on the right, Evans and Bennett, and then
Probably be
I
Phillips
guess
on the left.
Yeah, probably.
Ed made yesterday to me Ed was the lucky man who had the job of ringing me and telling me how the Leicester match went, and he said, maybe now is the time for Morgan to finish the season, because if anything, he can bring some proper leadership. If his skill set might not be that good on the pitch, as good as even Bennett, but do we need that person who can just really drag us over the line at this stage?
Well, especially Sheffield United, because I mean, knock on wood that they don't absolutely run through us, but they're not the most explosive team, and I think West out of the teams that we're going to play, he might be more suited to how Sheffield United's going to play. So that actually wouldn't be a crazy idea to think that he plays.
Well, first and foremost, it's guaranteed McGoldrick's going to score against us because he's a player who's just finding form. But I don't think...
A little bit like Solanke in that sense.
Yeah, his goal ain't just going to come. It's going to be an absolute worldie as well. But no, I think that proposition of two like bigger front men is going to cause issues, and I think that's something that Wes Morgan, it might play into his hands a little bit more. But I think McBurney and McGoldrick, their work rate above all else is phenomenal. I think, you know, we've got a job on our hands to contain that with two men up top as well. Do we play three at the back with one roaming and two man marking? So, or do we just sit on two, you know? But that can lead to gaps in behind as well. So it's a tricky one.
I mean, I think that one of the positive performances that we had as well, though, is in the first half was that of Yuri Tielemans. And I think that if we can actually play and keep it nice and tight, keep him on the ball, then you never know. And we have got a bit of a chance. But I mean, we want to try and avoid playing Perez out on the wing again, don't we?
Yeah, I was just about to say, he's, as well as Tielemans doing well the last few games, I do think Perez deserves a bit of credit. He's been getting some stick this year, but he's been playing in positions where the team need him. I feel it. Well, I think everyone can sort of see that he's better in the centre, isn't he? And he is doing better. I quite like that with Perez and Iheanacho off the front. And that'll be quite interesting actually to see how Sheffield United handle that if we do that, because we've almost got like three strikers then when they really get forward against their three defenders. Like, are they going to have to play more defensive to handle that? Or am I just being silly thinking that they're worrying about us rather than worrying about how many they're going to score?
I've just seen a relevant tweet that might come back to haunt Jamie. There's a user on Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
OPLCFC, and on the 14th of December last year, he tweeted this: "Reality check me thinks Brendan not as great as everyone says. Our wingers are relegation standard. Yuri strolling around the pitch with a muffin top. Maddison being a little weird bitch. Casper saving a one-on-one shock. And Didi out of position. Sionju being rock solid again." And then Jamie responded saying, "Jesus Christ, pal."
Well, I stand by what I said at the time because that was our first defeat in 17 games, and I just thought it was a bit over the top at the time. But I get what Ollie is saying in that, and I think he's brought it back up now, and I think I'm getting some pelters because I disagree with him. But I mean,
You're
he may what looks like he may what
yourself on Leicester City Twitter, I feel.
not a good one either, I don't think, but it is what it is. But no, I can say that. I mean, we can all say that we've got things wrong in the past. I think I was probably wrong to disagree with him. Although I probably disagree with the phrasing Maddison being a little weird bitch. I didn't really get that at the time. I still don't get it now. And actually, I think Tielemans has been good since we came back. But his point overall was that Rodgers is perhaps not all he's cracked up to be, and I think that maybe there is an element of that, but who knows? Right. So, in terms of the Sheffield United game, then I think Austin, you were the only man to get any sort of prediction right for the Bournemouth match. So
wait, I've got it in front of me. Do you want me to give you the official predictions?
Yeah, go on then. Let's review.
Literally what we were right. No, Austin said 3-0, but he said 3-0 to Leicester.
No, I said 3-0 to Bournemouth.
Are you sure? Because I've obviously written it down wrong then. Which sort of questions the validity of any of the scores, given that was the first one on the list. Chris said 2-1.
No, I said 4-1 Bournemouth.
Nah, come on.
I think we all did, didn't we?
Don't take. Jamie said 2-0, and I said 3-1 Leicester. So regarding Sheffield United, which we can change now if you want, Austin said 2-1. Chris said 0-0. Jamie said 1-1. I said 2-0.
I'm sticking with 0-0.
0-0. Good score.
I'm sticking with 2-1.
To
We're insane. Because we're crazy and we're probably going to win the next 3 games. And yeah.
Imagine the scenes. Jamie, what's the score going to be?
We're going to draw 1-0.
1-0 still. I'm going for 2-0 still.
What Morgan Brace?
No. I think Iheanacho is going to score, and I think Vardy's going to score, and I think everyone will be happy again until Spurs and Man U, which will both lose. But
at least guarantee us European football.
Felt like a bit of a tit actually when I put on the Twitter that if we win, we'll be guaranteed top 7. Then at half time, I was saying how easy it was. And like 20 minutes later, we were like 4-1 down or something. So,
and all predicting they were going to finish like 9th.
Funny how things change, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is. Well, this has been a rather depressing episode once again, but unfortunately, it's a rather depressing time to be a Leicester fan. Is there anything else you guys want to add in? Maybe something happy? Tell a joke, Ed.
A joke? Goodness. You put me on the
Leicester City Football Club.
Yeah.
I think it's not a joke, but was anyone watching the cricket over the weekend?
I was.
Yeah, who clocked it? Are we all familiar with Hugh Jardins?
I think no.
What they did was they the commentators asked, because it was the first week of club cricket, and they asked people to tweet in, like if anyone's played really well, let us know the name of who did it, what the club was, and what they did that was amazing. And they were reading them all out online, and someone got absolutely mugged off.
Right. Yeah, got you.
Hugh Jordan for Cockermouth, 6 for 9. And they read it out online, and the commentators were literally laughing out loud for about a minute, and they were trying to hide it. Like you could hear it was like background noise. But
I think Atherton didn't realize it at first.
He was Stokes' former club or something.
Yeah.
He said.
They're like, no, it's definitely just a seedy little man.
Atherton's got such a serious voice as well. I bet that was brilliant. We'll have to tweet that clip out as well afterwards. But no, that has cheered me up, so thank you. But if there is nothing else, no more puns to be added in, I think we can leave it there, can't we? So thank you.
This week. Do we want to do predictions for the Spurs game as well? Because that will be before the next podcast.
That's on the Sunday, isn't it? So yeah, let's add that in as well. Go on. Good thinking, Edward. You can go first.
I think it's going to be 1-1.
I think we will win that 1-0.
Yeah.
I'll say 3-2.
2. To whom, Austin?
Leicester.
Just got to get it right now.
Yeah.
And James.
I'm going to say a ball draw, 0-0.
Good stuff to look forward to then.
Well, currently no one's got one right. Oh wow! Some say Austin's got one right. I feel like I need to go back to the podcast and validate that. But if you did, Austin, well done, and you get a point for that. I'll put you on the spreadsheet.
Stay tuned for the exciting reveal of Ed's spreadsheet next week on the First LCFC podcast. None of us can wait, and I'm sure you can't either.
It's all right. No one's listening now.
No, I think it'll just be just the 3 people that listen to this.
Just be
probably
your dad.
be us. Well, shout out to Big John if you're still there. Right. Well, listen. Let's leave it there. And thank you to anyone who did make it this far. We always do appreciate it. Please do like, subscribe, and rate us wherever you get your podcast. Let's just hope that next time we're here, we can have a much happier show for everyone listening. Hopefully see you then.